You are listening to Book Clips, a mini podcast in which authors or narrators do readings from novels. Check out the show notes for the synopsis and buy links for this book.
The Dance, written by Suzie Carr, narrated by Clara Nipper. Prologue. Jacky Applebaum always knew her inner circle, as she lovingly referred to them, was a mismatched bunch from the very start. Jacky stood at the wayside of their bunch, too cautious, too impatient. That night marked their 5th anniversary as a viable dog training and daycare facility, and many came to help them celebrate. Jacky hovered over the dessert table, wavering between the pecan tart and the flan. From her vantage point, she caught sight of Marie, her best friend and business partner, defending her stance on RVing over hotel stays to Greg, one of the lead trainers, whose face turned a deeper shade of red with each octave Marie climbed. Marie loved a good debate. She was loyal, but not a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. She had a knack for spotting fake and showed no qualms over pointing out inconsistencies. Greg's face verged on blood red as Marie continued her rant, waving her hands and pointing her finger as she enjoyed dipping into her rebuttal. People didn't mess with Marie. She owned the room, with all of her 6-foot height and sharp, focused eyes. Though she might have appeared drill sergeant tough on the outside, on the inside, a soft core of sincerity and love flowed. Hazel, Marie's friend, stood beside Marie, looking every bit as uncomfortable as she would if standing in a box full of spiders. Her eyes darted back and forth between Marie and Greg, and her lips did that twitching thing they did every time Marie heated up into a good debate. Hazel was the most balanced of them all in the inner circle, always sweeping up after Jacky and Marie's quarrels and smoothing over any residual rough edges with quiet grace. She always appeared and disappeared on a whisper. Jacky glanced at a reflection of herself in the mirrored wall. She wore her light-colored hair down and flipped up at the ends slightly to create body. Even in the dimly lit room, she could tell her hair needed new highlights to spruce it back up to its sunnier look. Not exactly a priority, though. She looked back down to the desserts and chose the flan. She spooned some into her mouth. Scanning the room, she spotted Sophie, her stepdaughter, talking with a couple of her giggly friends. She wore a dress way too short and a tad bit on the see-through side to be appropriate. Sophie could charm her way into and out of anything. Her friends adored her. They watched in awe as she began to direct a waiter to refill the water pitchers on every table. Sophie was charismatic and brimming with innocence, in a subtle and contagious way, always mesmerized and excited about something or another. Her deep dimples and spunky spirit kept Jacky on her toes, running every which way to keep her entertained. Drew, Jacky's wife, snuck up behind her, placing her chin on Jacky's shoulder. They stared at their daughter for a moment in silence. "She's so bossy," Drew said. Jacky reached down and took her wife's hand, just like her mama. Drew smirked and gulped a mouthful of wine. Jacky then stole the glass from Drew and also gulped back a hearty mouthful. In a few short weeks, they'd celebrate 8 years together. All in all, the years had been kind, overflowing with laughter, teasing, and half-baked attempts at discerning the purpose of life. After all that time, Jacky never tired of lounging in bed on Sunday mornings, reading The Sun, and planning the next 20-year trek through time. Teasing Sophie, petting their dog Rosie, and filling the flannel bedsheets with biscuit crumbs had punctuated their past, present, and undoubtedly their future. And Jacky couldn't be any happier. Little did Jacky know, however, that life would soon take a reckless detour, one triggered by 2 heavy and regrettable words. Chapter 1. It all started with Jacky asking Drew to pass the salt. She passed the pepper instead. "Where are you tonight?" Jacky asked, pushing the pepper shaker toward Sophie. Sophie, in all of her 13 years of age, put down her fork and folded her hands under her chin, steadying in for the analysis. "Yeah, Mom, you're not here. I mean, physically, yes, but you're playing with your spaghetti." "I've got a lot on my mind." She darted from Jacky to Sophie, like a cornered stray cat, bracing for attack. "Cut me some slack." "Okay, chill out." Jacky reached over the silk flower arrangement and grabbed the salt. She disliked the arrangement with its fake daisies and leaves. They collected dust and reminded her of a waiting room in a doctor's office. They couldn't grow live ones, though. They never remembered to water them, so they chose plastic over dead leaves. Drew played with her broccoli florets, pushing them around the plate with clumsy strokes. Jacky stopped twirling her spaghetti. "We're just concerned, that's all. You've been running around looking exhausted for days now." "Days?" Sophie cut in. "More like months." She shoveled a pile of spaghetti into her mouth. Drew fiddled with the chunk of Parmesan cheese now. "I could really use an extra hour each day. Just one additional hour would do me wonders." She shook her head, fighting herself on the inadequacy of a 24-hour day. Since Jacky met her, Drew operated at blazing speed. She always bounced around activities and worked like a restless Boston terrier, sniffing and scurrying about. But that night, something distracted her. Her overstimulated brain skipped on the edge of a groove. She never played with her food. She normally devoured it. "So that's it?" Jacky sipped her lemonade. "You're just busy and overwhelmed?" She twirled a lone spaghetti strand. "That's it, babe." She looked up and forced a smile. "I just need a good night's sleep." Stress oozed from every fine line on her face. Or was it sadness? "Well, let's talk about something not work-related then," Sophie said. "I have to do a presentation for school. Maybe I could talk about my family. You know, how you met and all that." She pushed a meatball out of the way. "By the way, Ashley and her mom became vegetarians. We should consider it too. Ms. Kendall saw a video about how cattle meat is processed." Sophie scrunched her face. "It's disgusting." Jacky wrapped her hand around Drew's wrist. "We need to get her different friends." Drew's face flushed deep red. "Don't be silly." "I'm joking, sweetheart." She tickled her side, and Drew squirmed and squealed. "I'm not going to stop until you promise to drop the bad mood." Drew's laughter filled the kitchen, warming up the drabness instantly. Even the fake flowers took on a livelier glow. "Okay!" Drew squealed. "Yes, okay, it's gone." Jacky stopped and took in the beautiful twinkle resting in Drew's light eyes. Even with her strawberry blonde hair pulled back into its messy bun, she looked stunning. Drew laughed and covered her mouth. Oh, how Jacky loved when she did that. For a momentary span of time, her wife revealed that sweet, quiet side she adored, a monumental shift from the dueling side of that personality where confidence coded every move, slight or bold. Jacky eased back against the chair, enjoying the return of their familiar lively vibe. She took a long, restorative breath. "Did I ever tell you how I fell in love with your mother the first day I met her?" she asked Sophie. "Oh, juicy material for my presentation." Sophie scooted up. "Tell me." Jacky regarded the half-smile on Drew's face. "Well, we met at a Walk for Paws event on an unusually cold October day." "How cold?" Sophie asked. "I need details." 40-something degrees. "In Maryland?" Jacky nodded. "So I was prancing around in a circle with a dancing Calhoun named Dixie when I noticed your mother videotaping me." Drew raised her eyebrow. "You make me sound like a stalker." "Well, Mom, in all fairness, you can be sometimes. I mean, you hide in bushes to get the right shot." Drew did. As a photographer, Drew circled the state for the next big story. She hid in bushes and behind cars. Hell, she once even scaled a fire escape to get a bird's-eye view of the mayor in a parade. "So anyway," Jacky said, eyeing her beautiful wife, "she hopped over a pair of Yorkies to get to me. She carried this big video camera on her shoulder." "On her shoulder?" Sophie asked. "They're so scrawny." "Hey," Drew pointed her finger at her daughter, "you've got the same one, so zip it." "So yeah, your mother came bolting at me with that camera, and she had that look she gets when she realizes she's 10 minutes late for American Idol." "Like this?" Sophie stretched her neck and began wagging her head like a chicken. "Exactly." "I do not look that way." Drew folded her arms across her pink Nike t-shirt. "Yeah, you do, Mom." Drew shot Sophie a twisted smile. "So your mom comes up to me with her head all wagging and neck stretched like she's pecking for feed." Drew leaned back with a scowl, and Sophie all but spit out the lemonade she just sipped. She puts a mic in front of me and starts interviewing, all businesslike. "We're here with our own local dog whisperer, Jacky Applebaum. Ms. Applebaum, tell us how you got started." Jacky mimicked Drew's reporter-style voice. "What did you say?" Drew nudged. "Go ahead, tell her what happened." "For the first time in my life, I couldn't get my tongue to work. It got stuck in the back of my throat. She mesmerized me with that delicate smile. Ah, Sophie wiped some spaghetti sauce from her mouth with the back of her hand. Love at first sight, then? Sort of, Jacky said. Drew slapped Jacky's hand. Sort of? I'd call it puppy love, Jacky said. The next night, that's when I fell in love. I fell right down that abyss, and I've never been able to get out of it since. Drew picked up her glass. It was the Mai Tai. Jacky gazed into Drew's baby blue eyes, remembering back to their first date. The Mai Tai, huh? Drew nodded. The Mai Tai did help to calm Jacky's nerves that night. The very fact that Jacky had conjured up enough nerve to even ask Drew out still astounded her. Gripped by the idea of Drew disappearing from her life, though, Jacky stepped into boldness. Right there in the training circle at Walk for Paws, as Drew turned to walk away, Jacky grabbed for her arm and blurted out the invite to meet up for drinks the next night. Jacky chuckled at the memory. We can't credit the Mai Tai. The bartender watered it down. Then what? Her smile again? Sophie asked, rolling her eyes. No, not the smile either. Geez, Sophie sighed. What the hell can we credit? Watch your mouth, young lady. Drew squinted at her. Fine. What the heck can we credit? Jacky tossed her napkin on the table. The crab rangoon. The crab rangoon? Drew laughed. Yep. The way you ate them with reckless abandon stole my heart. You ate with such gusto. I'd never met a woman who ate with such passion and disregard for utensils as you. From that first fervent bite, our journey began. From there it blazed the open road. Really? Drew mouthed at her. Jacky nodded on a wink. How can this be the first time I'm hearing this story? Sophie slurped another mouthful of spaghetti. You never asked, kiddo. Later that night, when Jacky returned from a walk with Rosie, their retriever-spaniel mix, she noticed the freezer door open. She closed it and walked up the stairs to Sophie's room. She knocked and opened the door. She discovered Sophie sprawled out on her bed and on the phone. Did you go into the freezer for anything after dinner? Hang on, Ashley. Sophie tore off her earphones. No, why? Jacky sighed. Drew left it open again. Don't worry about it, kiddo, and don't stay up too late. Sophie stuck her earphones back in. Oh, my God, I know. Did you see how he looked at you? Jacky closed the door on her giggle. She ventured down the hall to their bedroom. She entered their spacious room and landed her eyes on the ruffled bed. Drew already tucked herself under the blankets with her back to her. Jacky sat on the edge of the bed, taking in the soft shadows all around her. The faint scent of lavender played on her senses, dulling the subtle pulse of annoyance that plagued her only moments ago. Are you awake? I am now, she mumbled. Jacky climbed under the covers and stared at the back of Drew's head. Her bun resembled a small animal's nest the way it matted and twisted. She feathered her hand down Drew's shoulder and arm. You left the freezer open again. Did I? She stiffened under her touch. Jacky dropped her hand. Unless Rosie can do a new trick. Drew tightened the fluffy comforter around her. Sorry, it won't happen again. Jacky remained silent, watching her wife cocoon herself. She placed her hand on Drew's shoulder again. You need to slow down. I'm fine. Drew was always fine. She piled to-do items onto her plate until it overflowed, drowning out their family time. If a new assignment across the state didn't tempt her, she flung herself into a new activity or class. She craved adventure, circling the state of Maryland with her video camera and tripod to capture the heart of living and breathing new experiences. Jacky undid her ponytail elastic, allowing her scalp a break from the tight pull. She ran her fingers through her hair, then looked around their bedroom again. She knew Drew was an adventuress the moment she met her. She just never understood how lonely being married to one could be until they sank into the routine of life together. Sophie didn't veer far from being an adventuress, too. She mirrored her mother, not only in looks, but in her primal pursuit of exploration. By age 5, Sophie had already taken a ride on a helicopter, explored part of the Appalachian Trail on horseback, and recorded her very first snorkeling expedition in a documentary where she educated and entertained her audience on the importance of safety and fun, as good as a 5-year-old could. Would they ever slow down and take a breath? Why do you do it? Drew rolled over. Do what? Try to escape through more and more commitments. I left the freezer open, and suddenly I'm escaping and taking on too many commitments? Are you? It's a legit question. Drew groaned. I'm just concerned, Jacky continued. Last week you forgot to turn off the outdoor lights. The week before that, you left your car running in the driveway. And 3 days ago, you forgot to take the bag of milk and eggs out of the trunk. Drew cradled Jacky's hand and grinned. Maybe you're right. Maybe turning 40 has changed me into a tired old woman. Jacky relied on that upward curve of Drew's mouth far too much. She reacted to it like a child to a puppet. It catapulted her from the brinks of upset to bright sunshine in a matter of nanoseconds. What does that make me, then? Jacky joked. A tired older woman by 6 months, I suppose. Jacky pulled out Drew's messy bun and ran her fingers through the layers. We need a vacation. Soon, she whispered. I promise. She traced her finger along Drew's warm lips. It's been so long, Jacky whispered, hinting her desire. A dramatic pause ensued. Maybe tomorrow? I'm tired, babe. Of course. Jacky lowered her finger and rolled over. It had only been 4 months. What would another night hurt? Jacky cradled her head against the pillow and stared off into the dark night. In the shadows of the hours that passed, Jacky lay in a tangle of restless thoughts. Comfort and routine had long ago taken over the early thrills and adrenaline rushes of their first years. Dinners grew cold on the counter, laundry piled up in the corners of their bedrooms, and suggestive kisses turned into quick pecks on the cheek as one of them rushed out of the house for an all-important meeting or activity. One day, Drew kept promising, we'll take a nice vacation. We'll tuck ourselves into a mountainside resort where entertainment will consist of roasting marshmallows over an open fire pit and hiking the great outdoors in search of peace and stimulating conversation about the future, outer space, and the purpose of life. Trust me, she'd say. Jacky tossed and turned. She trusted in Drew's plan to take that vacation, and hopefully, in so doing, they would be able to get everything back on track again. The next morning, Jacky woke to an empty bed. She rose, petted Rosie, and then checked the bathroom, the kitchen, and the living room. She ventured back upstairs and peeked in on Sophie. She found her talking on the phone to Ashley again. Hey, have you seen your mom? Sophie pulled her earphones out. She's not here? Maybe she's out back. Jacky headed back down the hall and toward the stairs. I have an eye doctor appointment in like an hour, Sophie yelled out to her. I hope she's here. Once in the kitchen, she headed over to the back door. Angry raindrops pounded the pavement, but despite that, Jacky lifted the blinds, hoping to see Drew outside sneaking a cigarette under the patio umbrella. Nothing. She turned back to face the empty kitchen. The freezer door hung open again. My God, would it kill her to pay attention to something other than everything outside the house? Jacky picked up the cell and called her. Where are you? In the car. I've got a meeting and I'm running late. You didn't even say goodbye. I woke up late. I just ran out and figured I'd call you in a little while to explain. Kate needs me at the dojo because they've got an army of kids coming in for a preview day. If I'm not there, she's going to have to deal with them by herself. Another item added to her full plate. You left the freezer open again. Ugh, I'm sorry. Pause. I was just in a hurry. Her excuse broke through their bloated dam and choked Jacky's reserve of compassion. You're always in a hurry. Please don't turn this into a lecture. A lecture? Anger curled up Jacky's spine, flicking its poison. I'm sorry I left the freezer open, Drew said. I've just got a lot on my mind. Like a dojo full of strangers? Not now, Jacky. Please, let's not fight today. Her newest obsession, the dojo, and her friend Kate, Ashley's mother, always took a front stance to their family. The smelly rubber floor and grunts of wannabe martial artists won. They infiltrated her home, tossing her peace and balance out of the way as they dug in and took over. Jacky heard the shower running. She still covered her mouth so Sophie wouldn't hear their inevitable argument. What about your daughter? What about her? You forgot, didn't you? What did I forget this time? Her eye appointment? Jacky pinched her leg to vent some of the anger. It continued to torment her with its grueling flicks. Drew sighed. Oh, fuck. Silence. Can you take her, please? Unbelievable. I've got clients lined up. I can't just cancel them. Please, she begged in her desperate voice. This is important. Everything's always more important than us lately. That's not true, Jacky. Please don't believe that. You're obsessed with the dojo. I enjoy it, she hissed. First a hobby, that's how it all begins with you. Then the hobby evolves into this all-encompassing fiasco where everything gets put to the side. You're there more than here, and when you come home, you're all stressed out and taking it out on us. Not now, okay? Drew begged. I'm running late. I'll call you later to discuss it. The anger fought its way into her words. You ran out of the house without saying goodbye. You just dumped your responsibilities into my lap again. Admit it. You didn't forget about your daughter's appointment. I did forget. Well, that's even the more troublesome. Her breaths quickened to the point her lungs hurt. More silence. Drew, you're constantly asking me to cancel my day to take Sophie here and there. I can't do this anymore. You're running out of the house, forgetting to shut freezer doors, and to take your daughter to medical appointments. Something has to give. I didn't have time to wake you up with a fucking cup of steaming coffee in the newspaper, so now something has to give? Excuse me? You heard me, she snapped. My life is careening out of control, and I just need you to give me a break. Give her a break? What about me? Clients relied on her, and that sat a little higher up the ladder of importance than some karate kick. How dare she shovel this on her? For the past 6 months, I've been the only one cooking, cleaning, and driving Sophie to every cheerleading practice, every student council meeting, every friend's slumber party, and what do? You come home and treat us like your life is more important than ours. Stop being such a bitch! Jacky's blood pressure flared. She paced the floor, nauseated. You can come home and take your own daughter to the eye appointment. My daughter? Drew asked. Jacky's temples throbbed. Yes, she is your daughter. Well, thank God for that! Drew screamed. Fuck off! Jacky yelled so loud the entire neighborhood must have heard. She hung up, then flung the phone. Jacky stormed around the kitchen counter, kicking and punching through the squally debris to find something, anything, to latch onto that made sense. What's happening? Sophie asked. Jacky turned around to find Sophie dripping and draped in a towel. I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. Doused in shame, Jacky steadied against the counter. I thought you were in the shower. Sophie swallowed. Clearly I'm not. She turned and walked down the hall toward the staircase. Jacky stood under the heat of the kitchen lights, embarrassed. The longer she stood, the more the shame dug at her. She needed air. She reached for Rosie's leash. Come on, girl, let's go for a walk. A few minutes later, Jacky resumed normal breathing and thought back on her fight with a clearer mind. How could Drew not see that her reckless, chaotic life affected all of them? How would they ever fix this? Perhaps Marie could help them reconcile by being that third person. If Marie didn't agree with something, she'd let them know. Marie took no sides, even when it came to Hazel. Marie couldn't tell a lie if her life depended on it. Maybe if Hazel's life depended on it, she could, but certainly no one else's. Yes, she would sit Drew down that night after dinner and suggest inviting Marie and Hazel over for a barbecue and mediation that weekend. When Jacky arrived back at the house, Sophie was gulping milk from the carton. Jacky stopped short of reprimanding. Sophie suffered enough damage for one day by hearing her tell her mom to fuck off. I'm going to take you to your eye appointment. Are you ready? She shrugged. Yeah, sure. You can just drop me off, and I can take the bus to school from there. Jacky put her arm around Sophie's shoulder. Nah, I'll take you. She'd call Marie from the car and tell her to cancel her first few dog training clients of the day. Sophie put the milk carton back and gathered up her book bag. I'm ready. A couple of hours later, they returned home to grab Sophie's lunch tote from the kitchen counter. Rosie leapt at them, excited and ready to walk. I'll take her for a walk. I could use the air, Sophie said. I'm already late for school. What's another half an hour? Jacky slid the leash off the hook in the hallway. I could use some air, too. Sophie shot her a frown. Fine, just let me tinkle. Jacky bent down and pet Rosie. She hates me. Rosie stared blankly at her. I don't blame her. I cursed out her mother. She leaned her forehead against Rosie's snout. You need a breath mint, pretty girl. Rosie licked her nose. Just then, someone knocked on the front door. Jacky snuck over to the window to get a peek. 2 policemen stood on her front stoop. Her heart dropped. Somehow she managed to open the front door. One of them asked, "Jacky Applebaum?" Jacky froze. Sophie walked up to Jacky's side. Rosie moved in, sniffing the officers. "Can we come in?" Jacky nodded and moved aside, and they entered. A heaviness dropped on the room, snuffing all remaining light and freshness. They stood in the foyer and removed their hats. The beefier of the 2 inched forward. "We're sorry to have to inform you," he said with a softness that didn't match his size. "Drew Applebaum was in a fatal car accident this morning." As the policeman spoke, the room blurred. She found Sophie's fragile, cold hand and cradled it as the police explained the details. Somewhere in between their sobs, Jacky heard about the bystander who had reported the accident happening around 9 o'clock that morning. A bigger lump formed in her throat. 9 o'clock, just about the same time she had carelessly flung those 2 regrettable words at her wife. A fierce shock took over immediately, leaving Jacky in a state of numb disbelief. She attempted to push through the shock waves to save Sophie from drowning in the tumultuous wake of their sadness, but to no avail. Sophie wanted to be alone. No amount of food, hugs, or attempts at talking would bring Drew back to them. On the morning after Drew's death, Sophie stood before Jacky. "I don't want to be here right now," she said on a whisper. "I'm going to Ashley's for a few days." Jacky cradled Sophie's wrist. "Kiddo, please don't go." A small cry escaped from deep inside Sophie. "I need my best friend right now." They stood staring at each other, each lost in a battle with their new cruel reality. If Jacky allowed her to go, would that hurt or help Sophie? Would Ashley offer Sophie better comfort than she could? Of course she would. Ashley was a good friend, and someone Sophie trusted. If anyone could keep Sophie's heart safe in the coming days, Ashley could. Jacky nodded, vying for strength and confidence in her decision. "Okay, kiddo." In the days following, Jacky sent Sophie text messages, and she'd respond in one-word answers. Marie urged her to continue to give Sophie room. So she did, but not without reminding Sophie that she was there for her if she wanted to talk. The night of the funeral, at Ashley's insistence, Sophie finally agreed to go home with Jacky. As they entered their empty home, Jacky reached out for Sophie's arm. "Can we chat?" She shrugged, slipping into the safety of her new and justified silence. Jacky never prayed, but she prayed in that moment. She prayed to a God she didn't know for guidance. She couldn't have Sophie hate her. "I never meant what I said to your mom that morning. The words just came out. We were fighting." Jacky's voice took on a pleading tone. "I never should have said that to her." Large teardrops leaked from the corners of Sophie's eyes. "Please talk to me, kiddo." Sophie bowed her head. Her golden ringlets hung as if deflated and tired. Jacky cradled her hand around Sophie's thin wrist. "I didn't mean it." Sophie glared up at her. She clenched her teeth. "Then you shouldn't have said it." Jacky caught her breath. Sophie's wrist trembled in her hand. "What can I do to make this better?" "Everything's already ruined." The teardrops leaked down her cheeks. Sophie reached for a tissue and began wiping Sophie's tears. "I'm sorry, kiddo. I'm so sorry." Sophie pushed Jacky's hand away. "You destroyed everything!" she screamed. "All you can say is, 'I'm sorry, kiddo!'" She grunted and balled her hands into fists. "I hate you!" She ran out of the room, up the stairs, and slammed her door shut. Jacky stood numb in the fallout ash of her own selfish assault on their beautiful life, too guilty to argue a defense. As the months crawled by after that fateful day, everything blurred into one tasteless crumb after another for Jacky. The spice that once peppered life disintegrated and left a bland film in its path. Shedding tears in her bathtub offered the only relief. They reminded her that she could still produce something other than empty promises to friends and family, empty promises that she and Sophie would eventually be okay. How could she truly promise something she didn't fully believe? Through the maze of casseroles, cheerful greeting cards, and constant messages from friends, she clung to the false hope that somewhere underneath all the heartbreak they might find peace. Then a cruel reminder would pop up in the form of a bill still in Drew's name, or an annual doctor's appointment reminder. Reminders poked at her from every direction. She only had to look up from her cereal bowl every morning to catch a glimpse of Drew and Sophie's face as she scrambled past her to fetch an apple before escaping the confines of the kitchen. The kitchen had shrunk. It withered down to a dark and airless closet. Drew's death changed that once lively, seasoned room. It lacked vitality and the song of a happy family chopping broccoli and carrots together under the ambiance of track lighting and Sinatra. Every time Jacky looked at Sophie with her doe-like eyes, guilt hammered her, burying her deeper into the darkness. The splinters of circumstance gutted her, all because of a stupid argument over an eye appointment and freezer door. As time rolled on after her mother's death, Jacky insisted Sophie continue to go to counseling. Sophie followed the order, playing along for the sake of peace. She didn't want to churn the water any more than it already had been. One night, after they returned from a session, Jacky walked into the kitchen. Sophie piled ham onto wheat bread. "Hey, kiddo, want to watch a movie tonight?" Sophie bit into her sandwich. Jacky always assumed they could skip right back into their former relationship, where laughter and piggyback rides through the house were the norm. "I can't." Jacky smoothed her hands over her tired face. "Can I ask you something?" Sophie teetered, gripping both her grudge and her hurt with equal strength. "Sure." "Will you ever forgive me?" "Forgive. You forgave someone for intentional wronging. How did you forgive someone for being honest? She couldn't be mad at Jacky for being truthful. She wasn't mad, she was sad. The kind of sadness that leaks down into your gut and drowns everything, leaving it bloated and rotten. She always assumed Jacky loved her like a daughter. She's your daughter, not mine! Jacky likely didn't even realize she had voiced her true feelings out loud. So, could she forgive her? Sure. But forget? She couldn't just forget the grip of sadness. "Please?" Strain pulled at Jacky. Why did she beg? Exactly why did she want to break through her wall? To rid herself of guilt for not wanting to be her mother? Sophie was nothing more than an obligation to her now. She bit into the ham sandwich, slaving to hide her emotions. "I've already forgiven you." "You have?" Jacky cried. Sophie wanted the conversation to end. No amount of talking would bring back her mother or the Jacky she used to trust. She would tell her therapist that she forgave Jacky, then she could move on like a normal teenager. "We're fine, really." Jacky moved in closer. "I love you. I hope you know that." Redirect. "I do." She pushed away from the counter. "I've got to get ready for tonight. Ashley and her boyfriend are picking me up in a little while. We're going to decorate the homecoming float." Jacky brightened. "Oh, okay, that's good. Time with friends is good." She balanced her hands on the kitchen counter. "That definitely sounds like more fun than a movie at home." Sophie lifted the giant burden of maternal duties from Jacky's shoulders with so little ease that it terrified her. She saved her that night from having to muddle in the responsibility of someone else's problem, someone else's daughter. A couple of hours later, Sophie pasted crumpled-up tissue paper to the side of a wagon while listening to her friends carry on about senseless things like lipstick shades, dresses for homecoming, hairstyle options, and whether they should rent limos or have their parents chauffeur them. They all had parents at home who would help them decide these important teenage questions. They'd go home afterwards and laugh on the couch with their families, carefree of any weight. Maybe like she used to do with Jacky and her mother, they'd joke about the day's funny moments and plan bike rides and picnics in the park for the upcoming weekend. How lucky. Sophie would return home to Jacky, someone who had no choice but to provide a roof and food for her. Jacky didn't choose to be a mother. Sophie was a sidekick, cute and small at first, requiring little more than an occasional tickle or visit to the corner ice cream shop. So she couldn't blame Jacky for being honest the day her mother died. Jacky got it right. Sophie was not her daughter, and Jacky was certainly not her mother. Jacky didn't plan on being a mother any more than Sophie planned on being an orphan. Instead of pretending to enjoy gluing colored tissue paper to a cardboard float, Sophie just wanted to be alone in her room, escaping all of the stupid teenaged angst.
You have been listening to Book Clips. Check out the show notes for the synopsis and buy links for this book. If you are interested in showcasing your novel, then check out the show notes for more information.